Every year, millions of drivers pour small bottles of so-called miracle oil additives into their engines, convinced they are extending engine life, restoring lost power, or stopping oil consumption. The labels promise smoother operation, higher compression, and protection that sounds almost magical. But when those claims are tested in real engines under controlled conditions, a very different story appears. In laboratory tests conducted on dozens of modern engines, many popular additives failed to deliver measurable benefits. Worse, several increased internal wear, clogged oil filters, and damaged seals over time. The most unsettling part is that this information isn't secret. Many mechanics know it, they just don't talk about it openly, because engines that last longer don't create repeat repair work. Understanding what oil additives really do requires separating chemistry from marketing and science from wishful thinking. Modern engine oil is not a simple lubricant. It is a carefully engineered chemical system built to perform multiple jobs at once. Whether synthetic or conventional, today's oils already contain complex additive packages designed by teams of chemists and engineers. These packages include detergents that keep metal surfaces clean, dispersants that hold microscopic contaminants in suspension, anti-wear agents such as zinc compounds, friction modifiers that reduce drag, and viscosity stabilizers that keep oil flowing correctly across extreme temperature ranges. Companies like Mobil, Castrol, Valvoline, and Shell spend millions developing and testing these formulations under brutal conditions meant to simulate years of engine operation. When an aftermarket additive is poured into this balanced system, it doesn't simply add protection, it alters the chemistry. Much like adding extra salt to a perfectly seasoned meal, the result is rarely improvement. More often, it disrupts the balance the oil was designed to maintain. One of the most common categories of additives that mechanics quietly warn against are thickening and stop leak formulas. These products claim to reduce oil consumption, stop leaks, and restore lost compression by swelling seals or filling worn gaps. In reality, they rely heavily on polymers that increase oil viscosity. Thicker oil may feel reassuring, but it flows more slowly, especially during cold starts when engines are most vulnerable. Controlled engine testing has shown that oils treated with thickening additives can take significantly longer to build oil pressure after startup. During those extra seconds, bearings, camshafts, and lifters experience metal-to-metal contact. Over time, this increases wear instead of reducing it. Even worse, the polymers used in these additives can clog oil filters, restricting flow to the top end of the engine. Mechanics often refer to these products as liquid bandages because they temporarily mask symptoms while accelerating underlying damage. Another widely marketed group of additives focuses on friction reduction, often using PTFE, Teflon, or ceramic particles. These products advertise dramatic reductions in friction and instantly smoother operation. The problem is that materials like PTFE were never designed for internal combustion engines. Inside an engine, these microscopic particles don't remain evenly suspended. They settle, collect in oil filters, coat sensors, and can accumulate in narrow oil passages where precision oil flow is critical. Government-backed testing has shown that PTFE-based additives significantly increase oil filter restriction in relatively short mileage intervals. Engines treated with these additives rarely fail suddenly. Instead, they slowly lose lubrication efficiency, leading to premature wear that often goes unnoticed until major damage has already occurred. Even the original manufacturer of Teflon has publicly stated that PTFE is not suitable for internal engine lubrication, yet the products remain on shelves because the short-term smoothness they create feels convincing to drivers. Metal-infused additives represent another category that sounds scientific but can be surprisingly harmful. Products boasting high levels of zinc, molybdenum, or copper often imply that more metal equals more protection. While it's true that compounds like ZDDP and molybdenum play important roles in engine lubrication, they are effective only within specific concentration ranges. Exceeding those limits can cause chemical reactions that create corrosive byproducts, attack engine bearings, and damage catalytic converters. Excess phosphorus from overuse of zinc additives is one of the leading causes of premature emissions system failure. These additives are especially dangerous in modern engines, designed with tight tolerances and sensitive emissions equipment. What protects a vintage flat tappet camshaft can destroy a modern catalytic converter. This is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable for the automotive industry. There are additives that actually work, but they are rarely discussed at the consumer level. They don't come in flashy bottles or promise instant results. They are used quietly in professional environments, where longevity matters more than marketing. But acknowledging their existence raises an obvious question. If real protection is already built into high-quality engine oil, and if most aftermarket additives cause more harm than good, why are store shelves still filled with miracle cures? The answer has less to do with chemistry and more to do with psychology. Additives sell reassurance. They make drivers feel proactive, even when the science says otherwise. By the time most engines suffer damage from additives, the cause is difficult to trace. Wear accumulates gradually, oil passages narrow slowly, sensors become contaminated over thousands of miles. When failure finally occurs, the additive is long forgotten, and the blame falls on age, mileage, or manufacturer design. This delayed effect allows ineffective and harmful products to survive in the market, supported by testimonials rather than controlled data. Understanding this pattern is critical because it explains why the additive industry continues to thrive despite overwhelming evidence that most products fail to deliver on their promises. This leads to the central realization that sets the stage for what comes next. If the majority of oil additives disrupt carefully engineered oil chemistry, and if the most heavily marketed products consistently show negative results in testing, then real engine protection must come from somewhere else. The question is not whether additives work in theory, but which chemistry works in practice, and why the most effective solutions are rarely advertised. That answer requires looking beyond store shelves and into the technologies quietly used by engineers, automakers, and professionals who measure success not in short-term feel, but in engines that survive hundreds of thousands of miles.
What most drivers never hear is that not all oil additives are useless. A very small number actually work, but not in the way the aftermarket wants you to believe. These aren't miracle bottles sold under bright labels at auto parts stores. They're industrial-grade chemical technologies quietly used by automakers, race teams, aviation engineers, and fleet mechanics whose priority isn't hype, but survival under extreme conditions. The reason you rarely hear about them is simple. Engines that last longer don't generate repeat repair business. Prevention doesn't pay shops the way failure does. So the additives that truly protect engines stay buried in technical data sheets, professional supply chains, and factory fill formulations most consumers never read. One of the most effective and least advertised of these technologies is boron-based friction modification. Boron compounds don't work like traditional lubricants that simply make oil more slippery. Instead, they chemically bond with metal surfaces at a microscopic level, forming an ultra-thin sacrificial layer that reduces wear where metal would otherwise touch metal. This is especially critical during cold starts, when oil hasn't fully circulated and most engine wear occurs. Laboratory testing conducted for energy efficiency research has shown that boron-enhanced oils can reduce internal friction by up to a third, while also delivering small but measurable improvements in fuel economy. Over tens of thousands of miles, that reduction in friction translates into less bearing wear, less heat stress, and longer engine life. That's why premium oils quietly include boron compounds as part of their additive packages, even though the word boron rarely appears on the bottle. It's not flashy, it doesn't promise instant horsepower, and it doesn't sell hype, but it works. Another proven technology that actually earns its reputation is molybdenum disulfide, often abbreviated as MOS2. This compound has been studied for decades and is one of the few additives with documented performance under extreme conditions. MOS2 forms a crystalline shield on metal surfaces that continues to provide protection even when oil pressure drops dangerously low. Its effectiveness was so well established that it was tested in aerospace applications, where machinery must survive moments of lubrication failure. In automotive engines, MOS2 is particularly effective under high-load, high-temperature conditions, where conventional oil films